What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, checking out a brand new familiar possessed Link monster that just got revealed. This is coming out as Savage Strike. I guess you could classify this as a Charmer Link monster as well. To me, familiar possess and like Charmers is really just one big archetype. One is a small evolution of the other, but when you look at the monsters, they all work in tandem, and it's really the same monsters. They also have a bunch of like trap cards with the art on them as well. Before I jump into the card, I would just like to note the artwork on this card is absolutely magnificent. Another great example of Akina Fujiwara and what she can do as an artist. If you're not familiar with that name, she is a Yu-Gi-Oh artist that Konami does hire to do these cards, and not only did she do the artwork for all the familiar possess and the charmer archetypes, but she's done a bunch of different cards. I'm talking about like the entire Trap Tricks archetype, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, Knight and Sorcerer. There are so many different cards, and I'll actually leave a link to her Yugipedia page that shows every single card that she has ever drawn. She's magnificent. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into Hita, the Blazing Fire Charmer. And yes, this is the same Hita from the other two cards as well. I'm pretty sure she's on one of the trap cards. Yeah, she definitely is. So I guess she's on like 3 or 4 other cards as well. Let's see. She's a Link 3 Fire Spellcaster Link monster, 1850 attack, and her Link arrows are bottom left and bottom right. Her materials are 2 monsters, including a fire monster, so summoning her isn't going to be that difficult. Basically, if you've ever summoned Dual Little Chimera, you should be able to summon her because that requires 2 fire monsters. It says this card is always treated as a familiar possessed card. I wonder if that means maybe there'll be more support in the future. You can use each one of these cards' effects once per turn, so both effects are hard once per turn. Effect number 1. You can target 1 fire monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon that monster to a monster zone this card points to. Effect number 2, if this link summon card is destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effect, you can add 1 fire monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. Okay, so I won't lie, my first reaction to this card was, man, this thing is whack as hell. Not only am I relying on my opponent's graveyard, which means probably not going to be summoning this turn 1 if I am going first, because there's a decent chance my opponent won't have a graveyard at that point. But then I'm also relying on them having a fire monster in the graveyard if I want to get any tangible advantage out of actually summoning this card. I wasn't really sold on it, but then I actually did a little bit of digging and I realized that, yeah, there are some very practical applications for this card. Maybe not going first turn 1, but when you think about fire monsters in the meta, there are just a lot of them that you would not expect that are going to pop up here and there. Number 1, Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. Pretty sure that that's the most popular hand trap in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! At least for the TCG side of Yu-Gi-Oh! That's a card that you could actually summon back from your opponent's graveyard turn 1 if you activate, I don't know, just a reinforcement of the army. It's not a great example, but I'm just using it as an example. Your opponent ashes you, boom, you could just summon this. You can summon their Ash Blossom back from the graveyard, and then you can actually climb into a Link 3 for free. You could also play against like a Sky Striker deck. We all know that Sky Striker Ace Kagari. Pretty sure that that is not only the most powerful Sky Striker in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, but it's also the most played, and people who still actually splash the Sky Striker engine into their deck, they're still running multiple copies, well, maybe not multiple, but they're still running copies of Kagari, and Kagari is a card that generally doesn't stay on the field that long because it does replace itself. Nightmare Phoenix is another card that's incredibly popular in today's meta. If you summon that back from the graveyard, you would be able to go into a rank 4, which would actually be incredibly powerful. But then I also thought about the second effect, and here's where I think I like this card. And no shade at, familiar possess and charmers. I feel like they're outdated, and unless they get way more powerful cards, I don't know if they're coming back. But if you're playing decks like Shiranui or Infernoids, I kind of feel like you might want to go for this card instead of something like Dual Little Chimera. Now, a deck like Infernoids, they don't use their extra deck all that much, but when you look at that second effect, right? The fact that when it dies, you get to search a monster with less than 1500 defense, a fire monster at that, well, Shiranui are zombie based, and zombies have historically been known to have incredibly low defenses. You could get yourself a copy of Solitaire, you can get a Spirit Master. Those are both like monsters that can instantly get you to where you need to go. When it comes to Infernoids, you can get basically like half the damn archetype. Half of the monsters do have high defense, but a lot of them actually have 0 defense. Petrulia, Decatron has only 200 defense, Stidamnus, and Untunda Arundel, those cards also just have like 0 defense. So those are a bunch of monsters that you can actually get. I could definitely see you running like 1 copy in those decks in particular, especially a deck like Shiranui. So overall, I think that this card does have some decent applications. I don't think it'll change Familiar Possess because I feel like that archetype is just, it's super power creeped, and I don't think it's going to come back. If you're playing Infernoids, I think that it might be worth a look, but if you're playing something like Shiranui, even something like Fire Kings, I think that you should definitely consider 1 copy of it. But whatever you guys think, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already. Turn on that notification bell for daily videos. And if I did sound a little nasally in this video, it's because I'm just super sick. So just bear with me. It might sound like this for the next few days.